Hello there, and welcome back to Life Chats with Friends. It has been a minute since we have come to you with any content, and reason being is we have been prioritizing our efforts in shifting into building an actual community. So getting people in a room together to have similar discussions to what we've been discussing on this show for the last 3 years or so. The show is evolving as we're thinking about community into an experience that we will look to call Sip and Chat. And basically what that is, it is a safe space that we are going to cultivate here in Los Angeles with aspirations to grow this community across the nation here in the US and hopefully one day across the globe in major hubs. But it's growing this community into a space where we can just freely explore our emotions. I am just beyond the moon to see how this experience is shaping up. We will have 3 gatherings here in Los Angeles this year. Our first one is on March 28th. The second one will take place this summer, and then the last one at the end of the year. We will look to leverage this podcast as a base foundation, sounding board to prime our audience on the conversations that we'll be having this year. So we'll look to start exploring the roots of resilience. And resilience is one that we've touched on the show before, but it's something that we keep coming back to because it's so important that we keep this at the forefront of the conversation, just looking at where the state of the world is today. Mid-year, we'll move into hope and how we explore that. And then at the end of the year, we'll really talk about and explore transformation. So how do you thrive and move through life when you are on the other side, or once you do get to the other side of all of these changes that could be happening to any one of us at any point in time in our lives in 2025. I just have to say a huge thank you to everyone that we picked up along the journey in the last 4 to 5 months or so. The first is the Podtext team, who have been so valuable in the growth of this podcast. I also have to say a huge thank you to the Tandem creative team, who are supporting with so much on the experiential side of what will grow and kind of expand the show into. And then I do also want to say thank you to a couple partners that we've picked up along the way. And the first is the Global Day of Unplugging, who will help us to tap into an ancient practice, which is the art of interpersonal communication. So how do we keep folks mindful of digital consumption and giving people tangible ways to gather, to really unplug and to be present in the moment. And the second are our partners at Magic Mind, which will help us to do more and stress less with the world's first mental performance shot designed to enhance focus, energy, and creativity without crash during our live experience on March 28th at the Industry Loft here in Los Angeles. I am so excited to give you all the opportunity to get to better understand and hear a little bit more from the facilitators that will help guide our experiences this year. The first facilitator that we will look we'll hear from is Dr. Hava Rose. So without further ado, let's get right into the conversation. Again, thank you all so much for continuing to follow this journey, for wanting to be a part of it, tapping in, listening to these conversations. We're now expanding our impact into community, and I'm so happy to bring you all along this journey into this next phase and chapter of Life Chats with Friends. Let's get it. Beautiful. Dr. Hava Rose, welcome back to Life Chats with Friends. How are you, friend?
I'm well. How are you doing? Happy to be back.
I am doing great. There's a lot happening in the world, obviously, as you know, but staying balanced, finding peace in the midst of it all, and really taking care of myself and what we're here to talk about today, looking for ways to take what I'm learning and seeing how I can pull connections together that are in the same space, leading broader discussions around community, around well-being, around connection, and bringing that to more people. So I am so looking forward to this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of impact we'll be able to make through collaborations like the one that we're going to talk about today, and just so excited to give back in meaningful ways.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. And as someone who's been in community for so long, it's so powerful to be able to create space and just bring people together, especially in these times. So I'm definitely excited for you in the year ahead in that world.
For a little bit of background for anybody that might just be tuning in, Hava or Dr. Rose joined us for, I believe it was one or maybe two conversations, but like I'd mentioned, what we're looking to do here today is really lay the foundation for a broader discussion or a series of discussions, conversations that we'll be having throughout the year that are again rooted in community and connection and well-being. And this really stemmed from just the chaos and devastation that we've been experiencing since the top of the year with the wildfires here in LA, plane crashes, politics, you name it, and really thinking through how do we bring people together in safe, vibe-centric spaces where they can heal, where they can freely explore their emotions. And that led to the birth of what is being called Sip and Chat. And we will look to deliver 3 events in 2025, structured events here in LA. And we're looking to scale and expand, taking it to other cities as we continue to grow and learn. But we will welcome 50 to 60 guests at the Industry Loft in LA. And Dr. Hava Rose will be one of our facilitators, and she will look to activate the pause experience, which she's talked a little bit about in the last segment that we did. And Dr. Rose, to lay the foundation, and we won't get into all of this today, but really just laying the foundation around your work and what it is that you look to bring to the experience. I want to start with unprocessed emotions in the body. And again, thinking about traumatic events and experiences that we're all moving through. You talk a lot about emotions being stored in the body, and in a world where we rarely slow down, what's the one sign that someone is carrying unprocessed trauma, and how might disconnecting from daily distractions help that?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because I do think that everyone has a different way of expressing the holding of trauma and experiences of life, and everyone maybe goes through their own thing around how it physically manifests, this like holding, and your body remembers. There's a really beautiful book, if you're curious about this and want to get into the science of it, called The Body Keeps the Score. But in essence, anything you experience in life is like a memory. It triggers smell, sight, it triggers you, anything and express in your body. And when it's a traumatic event, or when it feels like, it's in conflict with your safety or insecurity, generally that also creates a spike in stress and the stress hormones of your body. And if you're not able to process through and move through these things, your body keeps tabs. It's like you're at the bar and you're like, put that on my tab. I mean, your body kind of does the same thing, where it keeps tabs on when you have been in jeopardy, or, primitively when you're in fight or flight mode. And it does that in a primitive way. It's like really beneficial, because then next time you see, let's say a bear is coming for you, next time you see a bear, there's no thought process that has to happen for you to run. Your body remembers. And so it comes from a primitive place, but in today's world, obviously we live a different lifestyle, but our primitive aspects of our adaptability and our body and our science still remains. And so, but the self-awareness is what's key in like remembering and knowing that this makes me feel unsafe. This makes me feel insecure. This makes me feel my life's at risk in this moment. So what can I do to make myself feel safe? What can I do to make myself feel secure? What can I make myself do to remember that I'm okay, right? And that's the process. And if we're not doing that and not working through these events, our body just holds that memory, and anytime that similar energy is triggered, we're immediately in this anxious state, overwhelmed state. Our life is at risk state again. And it happens so subconsciously for so many people that they're totally disconnected from where they are in their day or their moment or their life, right? So physically, what can happen for a lot of people is a range. It depends what your response mechanism is, right? One thing I know for me, I can share my sentiment. When I get super anxious, something that feels like puts me feeling like out of control, like I'm not okay, I definitely get bubble guts. Like I definitely physically have a hard time digesting things. I feel maybe nauseous. That's a symptom that I know that I can pinpoint is, oh, there's something here that I need to process through. And this is connected to many things in my life, but this is the physical response that happens. Now, someone might have the similar experience. You might be able to connect to that specific example. But what happens a lot of times is the focus becomes the symptom and not why the symptom's happening, right? And so, oh, I have a stomach ache, I need to just take a break. But in reality, it's coming from a deeper root of anxiety, feeling like your life's at risk, or feeling like you need to survive, right? So these are the things that I love creating space as the processing space to actually process through emotions that maybe you're not dealing with when they arise, and that maybe you've even forgotten about, that have existed in your life that are impacting you physically or emotionally or mentally. And energy levels, all these things play a factor, because when we are in a state of crisis, which not to say we are all the time, but the energy of the lingering of memories can create the state of crisis internally. Scientifically, we're playing with hormones in our body. And so the goal is, how do we regulate our nervous system and process? And that's where the processing comes. If you're actually going back and processing through these emotions and events and experiences in your life, you give yourself the opportunity to learn how to regulate your own nervous system and learn how to actually release some of these memories from the body, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I love what you said. The focus should be on the symptom and trying to get to the root cause of why. And that actually took me back to COVID, or coming out of the COVID-19 experience, where it felt like we all went through this really traumatic thing, but we never paused to say or ask ourselves, like, collectively, what just happened? What is the feeling? What are the feelings? And why are we feeling these things? It kind of felt like no one skipped a beat. It was like back to reality, or back to this normal, or this new normal that we're trying to define, without having that underlying conversation around, well, what or why, or how do we process this real and true thing that we just went through? And like I said at the start of this, just so much devastation and tragedy that's happening. And how do we, folks like you and me and others that will pull into this experience, create spaces where people can process? And that kind of leads me to my next question for someone, and we'll have an array of a wide variety of people coming into this experience that have all different levels and experiences with health and well-being and healing. For someone who has never practiced mindfulness, especially in a culture of constant noise and stimulation, what's the simplest way to begin?
Mindfulness is, simply put, it's bringing yourself to the present moment, right? And I think the easiest way to access this is to, every time you step into a new space, when you walk through another door, having 1 second to take a deep inhale in through your nose and exhale out your mouth, look around, and then continue walking. And this is just a simple practice of connecting your body, breath, and energy into the new space you're in. And maybe it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, but this is, I think, a very approachable and simple way to start to practice mindfulness, to start to integrate yourself into the space you are at every change of scenery throughout your day. Is to, as soon as you enter this new space, deep breath in through your nose, breathe it out. Take that glance around and look around your surroundings, like take in your surroundings, like get out of your head and look out and look at the surroundings, and then move about your business in that day. And I think that's just the most accessible, easy place to start with mindfulness, is to every time that scene changes in your day, to be in the scene, essentially, like thinking about a movie. Like, all right, scene change, where am I? Here I am, and now I'm moving forward.
Me.
Yeah, I think that's just like the most approachable way if you're like very new to the practice of mindfulness and wanting to integrate more presence into your days. This is just a very easy place to start. Yeah.
And part of what you'll bring to the Sip and Chat live experience is the pause activation. And I'll let you talk about that a little bit more, but a part of that and the essence and core of that is journaling for emotional release. And some of the programming that you deliver, just my understanding that journaling has played a huge role for you in your healing journey and the journeys of others that you've been able to help aid. If someone were to take just 5 minutes to journal as part of unplugging, what's one simple yet powerful exercise that you'd recommend for emotional release?
Yeah, journaling is an incredible tool. I think one of my favorite things about journaling is that it's obviously we're workshopping it in spaces that I create, but it's a tool that you have access to without anything. Like, you just need something to write with and something to write on, and you have it at your disposal at any moment. That's one of the things I love about journaling. It's so accessible. But if you do, I think 5 minutes, I always say if you're newer to journaling, like, you don't need anything more than 5 minutes. I always say 3 to 5 minutes is like the sweet spot to practice journaling and to have enough time to get processing going. So I think one of the easiest ways to approach a 5-minute a journal moment for yourself to give you some emotional release is if there is a question, right? This isn't always the case, but if there's a question that's been circulating in your own thought process, using that question to prompt your journal experience, right? So if you're trying to make a decision that week, like if there's something that you've been going back and forth with, writing out like the decision that needs to be made and then journaling about that. Like, if I say yes to this, how will it make me feel? What are the pros? What are the cons? If I say no to this, how will it make me feel? What are the pros? What are the cons? This is like a nice thing to practice. And I think in our world, like you mentioned, a busy one, we often have a lot of decisions that we're making every day. And so decision making is a very nice way to create a journal practice, I think, to help you process through the emotional attachment that you might have to these decisions as well, or how the decisions will affect you emotionally. So that's like a very simple one, just because I think that we're also always making decisions. So that's an easy pull from the draw if you want to have 5 minutes. I also think it's helpful to have lyricless music on in the background, is it helps bring like a flow and energy. Yeah, like a lo-fi beats, whatever it might be. But the music can help get you out of the head more and just like allow you to channel the energy versus like thinking what you're gonna write. Because that's another thing with journaling. The magic is in the release and not thinking before you write. It's like we're trying to get you to process and release. So like, drop it on the paper, like don't keep it in your head. So the music, I think, just helps stimulate that flow process of getting it out on the paper. Yeah.
Amazing. And just to say, all of this and a lot more to come, again, at our first live event experience. Hava, I'm so excited that we are finally able to get the chance to do this, to get the opportunity to collaborate. We have barely scratched the surface for what will be an amazing activation that I know that you'll bring into the space, into the experience. And for this audience that's following us, listening to this podcast, as I've mentioned, we will look to continue bringing insights from the experience, share back stories that are told to this audience as well, to help broaden the reach of the messages that come out of that. Dr. Rose, is there anything that's kind of top of mind for you as we gear up to get into this this first event? And if you also want to tee up what's coming up in May as well in Philly, welcome to bring that to this audience as well.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be a part of Sip and Chat, and as someone who's been curating community connection and events for over 7 years, I'm just so excited to be a part of like a new emergence of a space and place, especially in LA, where I'm based in Philly. So it's fun to come to another city and support the mission, because I think the most important thing is continuing to gather, especially in these times, to be reminded that like we're in this together and you have support always. And the pause experience will be just that. Like the most powerful thing I believe is pauses, and everyone deserves one. And I think that's where a lot of the stillness and solitude and connection to self, and then in community connection to one another, we're going to have a really beautiful opportunity to just explore, express, and connect. And obviously we'll do some journaling to help facilitate that. And yeah, I think just to emphasize like the importance of community again, and the importance of really creating that, I say, empowering and brave space for people to explore wholeness. This, a lot of my own philosophy is, wellness is connection, and we have to connect ourselves to ourselves. There have to be bridges that are built within us to make ourselves whole. And in that, the ripple effect is that we're able to build a bridge to other people. Because if we're whole and we're connected and we're bridged up, we get to be able to build bridges with other people doing the same. And so my excitement and journey continues with a new version of that, and bringing a free to the public community event here in Philadelphia. We're really not out in the world yet, but I'm excited to share here. But we'll be bringing Pause in the Park, like activating a public park space here in Philadelphia to create a large scale well-being day to really connect community to what wellness and whole being looks like, and to connect them to the people doing the work that are vast and throughout the country, and also not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, but all of it. Like, what is well-being and what is whole being? It's all of it. So really just excited. I can't talk too much about it yet, but I will say May 10th is a day you should mark as the Saturday right before Mother's Day. It is going to be a powerful, fun day. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And
Sip and Chat will be there, which is really dope.
Yes. So much to come this year. So many opportunities for folks that are here in LA to join us, to be a part of this conversation, to be a part of this experience. Our first event is on March 28th at the Industry Loft, and it will run from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Expect authentic connections, storytelling, deep storytelling, and just a meaningful place to heal, to let the veil down, to really be yourself, to feel like you can express and come into the experience, take what you need, and leave the rest. This and so much more to come in the months ahead. We hope to see you at one of our events, and if not, I hope that you will tune in for the recap of the conversations that we will have in the room. Dr. Rose, anything else that you'd like to share before we say goodbye for right now?
Oh, I just hope to see you on March 28th.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to being out there in LA in the warm sunshine soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Rose.